Hey everybody, it's Matthew. Welcome back to the channel, and today I am officially announcing that I am working on an original song. It'll be my first original song that I've done, and I thought it would be fun to start documenting the process, and hopefully we'll do that for subsequent songs as they come. And today we're going to be looking at the drum track that I programmed for this and why I did the things that I did on it. Yeah, it should be a fun one. I'm doing this because, some creators have mentioned there's not a ton of people that are actually, live documenting the process of their song making, and I thought maybe I could do that since I am working on something. So we're going right into that now. Let's open up this guy here. Hopefully the audio's good. I'm having to run my microphone through my screen capture as well, so hopefully it sounds decent. Anyway, let's talk about context of what we have first. So here's the guitar tab. I've also got the bass for this as well in here. And you can see it says ChatGPT Soundgarden because this is the follow-up to a video I did in March, which was Can ChatGPT Write a Soundgarden Song? And we documented me giving ChatGPT prompts and it spitting out tabs. I use that term loosely because boy did it do some weird stuff. And then of course this is what we've written based on that. This is different from what is in the video because I've done different things to hopefully improve it. But that's the context for what we've got here. Let's go to the drum track. I should mention the reason why we have drum programming here is because, well, I can't play drums because of my disability and all that. Muscular dystrophy makes it way too hard to do something like that. I also can't play bass. And we are using the Extinction Level Event Drum VST from Spectre Digital. Using this because I thought it had the best sound out of the box. There's not a lot of tweaking you have to do with it. It just sounds good already. In my opinion, better workflow for me than Get Good Drums, which gives you too many options, in my opinion, for those things. Anyway, back to the track here. Okay, so you'll notice this pattern here. We've got the kick like this. And then we've got this here. Let's hear the pattern first, though. Basic feel there. Okay, so we've got that pattern here. Standard stuff with the hi-hats. We've got a little trick here with this by opening it up. You would, of course, do that with the pedal. Open it, hit the thing, and then you close it back. And that gives you that little trick there, which I thought would just be fun to give it a little bit of extra groove. So you'll notice our pattern here with these kicks. Everything is lined up here. We've got 4/16 notes starting out here on the riff if we look at that. You can see what we're dealing with there. So we are sort of matching it with the drum pattern because we've got all but this note here is filled with the 16th notes. And of course we have an 8th note here and then another quarter note here, and you go all the way here to this, and then that's 8th note, 8th note, 8th note on all of those guitar chords. Makes sense there. So that when we go to this one, which has a little bit of a different ending, we've got this here, but we've changed the kick pattern a little bit here to give it slightly different groove, and then we've had this moved over to a 16th note here, so we're hitting stuff at similar times once again with that. And you might be saying, why is China here? Why is Crash here? Well, I did want some cymbal on the ones, but I felt doing alternating with the Crash would be with the Crash in China would be a little more interesting and also a little bit less noisy for a verse, because I feel like crashes on every one would be too loud or too much going on with that in a verse section, right? So, and then let's talk about our principles here. So principle one is we're reinforcing things that we are hearing in the guitar riff in the drum pattern, which I talked about already with our kicks. And those things, that's pretty simple. Our play between our kicks and our snares, that's mostly how we're doing that. And of course the hi-hats are just holding the beat down like they do. And that also brings us to principle 2, which is pacing. We are pacing what our sections are doing. So we have a verse section here that has a certain pattern to it. Now I've actually gone through and I've taken out some of the kicks that I had initially because I thought there was too much going on for a verse section. And that's how we want to do. We want to pace it. We want to pace the energy. So we do a little bit less in the verse because it's a little bit lower energy. And then of course, when your energy is changing, you need a transition here. There's a 2/4 bar. That's just a cooldown to take us into a pre-chorus here, and you'll hear the fill with this. We have the cymbals to take us there and tell us where we are. And then this goes to a halftime because it's a simpler riff and we also want to build. So it makes sense to go to a halftime feel. So that's the principle of pacing. If we go back here to look at it, you guys can see it here. So it's like that. I'll probably extend this by 2 bars just to make it a little bit beefier here. And then of course you see the chorus section. If we go back to the drums here, what are we doing? Pacing again. We've got this, but we're coming out of it with a big fat fill here that has more energy because we got notes closer together to go into the chorus. So there's that. This has more energy here. We are doing a similar thing where it's 16th notes. We have one empty just because it's boring if it's the same all the way through. But because we want the energy to change and we have some slightly different stuff like that extra 16th note in here, these 8th notes, and then 16th note gap here again. Makes sense, right? Because then we're hitting those last 2 chords here. Right? So again, we're mirroring like we talked about. And then that's just a different ending where the vocals go out or fall out of the chorus. So the vocals start here and then they end somewhere halfway here. We just have something different to give us a little bit more ear candy. So if we go to the 3rd bar here, instead of what we would normally be doing, we've taken out kicks and stuff and we've done a fill that's slightly different. We've also got some pedal stuff here because during a fill, it's hard to hit these with a stick, so we're doing the foot splash instead. Yeah. Now that feels a little bit weird, but it's just something different. I just thought of that. I thought it was cool. But anyway, the point I said about doing the foot splash here brings us to principle 3, which is the idea of drummer limbs. And by that, we mean we do not program anything that is impossible. We don't do anything unnatural. We don't have 3 things being hit at once because you've only got 2 arms, right? That's a very important thing to remember. And it's something that people that are not a drummer first sometimes will miss. If they're just a guitar player, they'll be doing weird stuff that doesn't make any sense, that a real drummer wouldn't play or wouldn't be able to physically accomplish. And that's why we're very smart about things here. Like, see, this is empty here where we're hitting the crash. We could have something here. We could have another foot splash. I may go back and add that in here. I did the same thing here with the chinas. So again, we're doing something we did earlier with a drum pattern with alternating between crashes and chinas, but we're giving more energy because we're doing it more often, right? To make a note on fills, fills can be pretty subjective. They're always a to taste type of thing, you know, and as someone who's not a drummer first, I'm not as well versed with all the techniques and things, so I don't necessarily know the limitations. I might have played some of this a little safe just because I don't want to accidentally go overboard. And then fills, I tried to do groovy things where I thought they were appropriate, you know. Since we only got the snare there, we can still hit this, right? And then this is back-to-back fills just because I thought that would be cool. And now you'll notice with this, some of the fills are kind of simplistic. They're very caveman style, as some people like to put it, which is not a bad thing. It just means they're a little bit more simplistic. They aren't crazy fast. I prefer fills that way, although Matt Cameron is kind of that way. His fills tend to not be too complicated because he's not a full, you know, prog player. He's not a speed guy. He's very much a groove guy because that's his background of stuff he grew up listening to. So you will notice his fills can be a little simpler, and I've tried my best to do things that would make sense for him to play, because it is supposed to be a Soundgarden song, kind of, based on the objective of this I described earlier. So we've got fills all over the place. Again, it's always about transitions here. You always want your transition fills to be good. You might want to start them a little earlier than you think you need to. Anyway, but that's the point of that. The last note I will give you is we are going over here to a different section that is in 5 instead, because I wanted a little transition bridge section here, This is kind of a hybrid between two things. We kind of took ideas from the Bridge of Spoonman and the Bridge of Rusty Cage and smashed it together to make this weird thing. I thought it would be fun to make it a time change too. So we have this here as a breather and the bend here, and we are messing around with that some by giving space here for the bend to just build and then come back around. Even though we're in 5 here, we've kind of played it like we're 4, just because I want there to be some extra space in that spot there, in that last beat. I could maybe do another hat in here or something, but for now I think this is a pretty decent thing. I didn't want something too complicated in here. I would normally want to do a flam here. I don't really have that option with this particular kind of kit here. That's not a huge deal. You can kind of cheat that by putting the snare centers on here too if you want. And that's the same. And then we've got a really big transition here. So it's into the last chorus. That's, a 2-bar or 2/4 bar here just to give us breathing room. The 2/4s are there. Soundgarden does that a lot. They add extra empty bars on stuff for transitions. So we have this kind of fill here. You go straight back into it. Of course, we like a good outro. So make sure if you're doing a part that does have fills consistently, you are doing one last big one at the very end of the song, because you want to put that, period, that end statement on it. So we have this here. That would be the end of that song there. So that makes perfect sense. So let's recap our principles. And number 1, we are trying to accentuate and reflect other parts of the song. In this case, we are having things happening when there are guitar chords also happening at the same time in the guitar riffs, because we want there to be that synergy between the parts. We want them to feel like they're made for each other and not anything super weird. Number 2, again, pacing. This is a verse section, so we have a little bit less going on here. Then we get to a pre-chorus section here that we want to cool down, so we go to halftime. And then we go to a full chorus here, which has a little bit more going on, more cymbals, a bit more kicks, just to give it more energy, to tell us this is this part, this is this part, this is this part. So it makes perfect sense. And of course, the final principle is drummer limbs. Always remember there are physical limitations to what the human body can do. Do not program something that makes no sense or is physically impossible to play, because then it won't sound like real music and it won't fit in with the rest of the song. I think I've rambled long enough about drum programming, so we're going to call it here, guys. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video here, this look behind the curtain, to check out my drum programming for this song. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, of course. Leave a comment down below if you'd like. As always, don't forget to click the bell so that you know when a new video is out. And I will see you guys next time in another video. Have a good one.